This episode of Lawyers Tell All is brought to you by the Intake Academy. Do you know how to cement relationships with more of your ideal clients, get them to commit to you, and send you more referrals than you ever thought possible? Visit www.intakeacademy.com, where you will get the strategies you need to make the most of your marketing and advertising dollars. Plus, develop a team of intake specialists and attorneys who convert more qualified case opportunities and build meaningful relationships with prospective clients. Welcome to the Lawyers Tell All podcast, where Chris Mullins, the preeminent sales and communications consultant in the legal industry, shows you how it looks through lawyers' eyes. Here, innovators in the trenches provide powerful insights that help you connect with new clients, handle the sometimes harsh realities of the legal profession, and embrace the mindsets needed to succeed. Be sure to visit our website at www.lawyerstellall.com. And while you're there, subscribe to us via your favorite network. Now, lean in, tune in, and let's take a deep dive.
Hello, everyone. It's Chris Mullins with Lawyers Tell All, and today I am going to interview Farah, the intake director at Dubin Law Group, and I'm going to let Farah tell you a little bit about herself. Go ahead, Farah.
Hi, everyone. My name is Farah, and I'm the director of intake with the Dubin Law Group. I've been with the firm for about 5 years. I started out as an intake specialist, taking inbound and outbound calls and slowly developing and enhancing our intake procedures. And then from there, I grew into a senior intake specialist, taking on more responsibilities as a lead. And then 3 years in, I grew into the director of intake and just always refining and enhancing our department as we grow.
Okay. And tell everybody a little bit about your background, like where you're from, where your parents are from.
Yeah, so I was born and raised in Seattle, but my parents are from the Middle East. My dad is from Iraq, and he came here in the mid-90s. And my mom came around here the same time, and she's from Azerbaijan. So when they came to the States, they didn't speak any English. They didn't even speak the same language. So my mom is from, she grew up in the Soviet Union times, and so she speaks Russian. My dad speaks Arabic, but they met in an ESL class, and then they got married, and a few years later they had me. The language, the household that I grew up in, the languages are all kind of mixed in together. I grew up speaking a little bit of Arabic, then my dad stopped and only spoke English with me, but my mom kept speaking Russian with me. So to this day, I still speak some conversational Russian. Yeah, it's a little bit about my background in terms of like my nationality and my upbringing with different languages.
Yeah. Okay. Now, did you go to school? Did you go to college or anything like that?
Yeah. So when I turned 15, there was a program at my high school called Running Start, which allows you to go to community college while you're still in high school.
Oh.
So I did that part-time. And then when I was a junior at the time. And then when I became a senior, I just went to community college full-time. And then I got my AA when I was 18. And then from there, I transferred to the University of Washington and got my bachelor's at 20. So it was just kind of like my mom put that in my head since I was 10 years old, like, you gotta go to college and just kind of, you need to get at least a bachelor's degree. So I thought, yeah, that's a great idea. Just kind of get it over with. I was never a student. I prefer to work and get the best real world experience when you're in the real world rather than in the class setting. And so, yes, I went to school, got my bachelor's, and I don't have any plans to go back to school. I love working. I'd rather work.
Yeah. So, but I'm curious, like, what did you go to school for?
Yeah, I went to school for, and I studied communications. So I have a degree in communications.
Okay. So it kind of makes sense that you're at the Dubin Law Group.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. And I interned at our local news station in Seattle called Cairo 7. And in my internship in 2019, I shadowed the sales department and they said, hey, we have this one day where Matt Dubin from Dubin Law Group is going to come in and we're going to film his commercial and we need to go through the teleprompter for him.
Oh.
Okay. So that one day I met Matt and Vivian, our firm administrator. And from there, I just introduced myself. We didn't really have time to make conversation or anything. But a year later into the pandemic, I graduated from UW, and then I was like, oh my gosh, I need to find a job. And at the time, nobody was hiring. And so he found me on LinkedIn, and he reached out to me himself. And he said,
okay.
looking for an intake specialist. Are you interested based on your, LinkedIn profile? And he didn't remember me at the time. And I messaged him saying, yeah, I remember you from Kairos 7. And he's like, yeah, definitely come on in. I met him and Vivian. We interviewed, just had a conversation just like this. And he's like, I think you're going to be perfect for this position. And then, the rest is history.
Yeah. Okay. So for you, when you were an intake specialist, what was that like? Like, what were you thinking about that particular job or that career? Was it a career at that point? Like, what was that whole thing like for you?
I'll be honest, I didn't know what an intake specialist was. So I kind of, came in blindly because I never worked at a law firm. I didn't know what an intake specialist was. I thought that, the case managers and paralegals would do the intake and then they give the information to the attorneys. But I didn't know there was a specific position like this before. And so I was a little bit scared, and because I it's quite natural to fear the unknown. So I didn't know what the day-to-day was going to look like and what kind of calls to expect. I mean, I was told during the interview, and I'm like, yeah, I will do it. I don't want to just hide and, live in fear. So I have to go like head on and just, see what's out there. And so the training process took actually a couple months. So the training back then is much different than how we train our intake specialists now. And it was scary. Yeah, just scary to say the least.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So, so fast forward, you're the director now. What does your intake department look like?
So the intake department is now a mix of remote workers, who live in different time zones. And now we also have in-house people as well. So it's a mixture. So you got different backgrounds who now work in the intake, people from different backgrounds who work in the intake department, people who speak different languages, definitely a higher volume, a lot of refining what kind of cases intake specialists can sign. So there were a lot of procedures and protocols in place when I started that were just kind of like, you kind of go with your gut feeling, but you just can't train like that on a gut feeling. That's why it took a couple months to become an intake specialist, to be fully trained up. And so basically the difference is now we have a lot of written procedures and protocols in place, and just always, fine tuning it as we go.
Okay. And what's like the biggest lesson that you've learned as an intake director? And it might be more than one lesson. I mean, what are the lessons that you've learned as an intake director so far?
Yeah, definitely the biggest lesson I have learned is patience, because you are dealing not only with, different personalities on the phone, with potential clients, but you have to put yourself in the shoes of the people that you work with, because you were once new and you had to be patient with yourself. And when you've been doing this, day in and day out, for even just a year, you can kind of become too into your routine, that you forget that other people are not there yet. So it's really important. The main lesson is to be patient, not only with yourself, but with your peers as well.
Yeah. Okay. So we're working together, and we've been working together for several months now. So what was the beginning of that relationship like? Like the very beginning of the relationship. What was that like? And you got to be honest too,
Yeah.
You got to tell the truth. Tell the truth.
Yeah. It again, it takes me back to the first day. Like when I started here, like a little bit of like I'm kind of a little bit scared because we're basically changing the way that we were doing intake. So just like going through a new script again, well, not again, but like going through a new script entirely, and then really diving into the psychology behind what people tell you and how they tell you, really digging in deep. For me as an intake specialist, my biggest fear at the time was if I felt that a person was, getting kind of emotional or they were in distress, I kind of wanted to just get through the intake process. And definitely this program since the beginning has made us like really get comfortable with the uncomfortable, especially over the phone. And you also have to tell yourself, like, I'm in a safe place. So even when people who are on the phone are being abusive or maybe a little bit hostile, you got to remind yourself that this isn't a face-to-face interaction. And so you get a moment for yourself to take a breath after that next phone call, breathe, pause, and then move on to the next one. And so before this program, we didn't have a way to center ourselves. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. And so what about call recordings, listening to call recordings, reviewing recordings with the team, that whole thing? Remind me, like before we got together, were you doing that?
I was, yes. But before we had Comcast Business, and so calls used to not be recorded. So it was just a little bit before we began the program that we transitioned to Zoom, and calls were recording. We were listening to that. But the features that we weren't utilizing was the whisper feature and actually helping intake specialists during the live call as it was happening.
Mm-hmm. Okay. But so share with everybody what it's like to be in class, listening to call recordings, reviewing them, everything that we do. Like what's that like?
Yeah, I mean, because I am not on the call rotation, I can't speak, directly for other intake specialists, but essentially when we play other call recordings, you can feel like, they can get a little bit scared, listening to your own calls. Even when I listen back to my own voice, I'm like, is that a 12-year-old boy?
Oh no, stop. Do you really? You think you sound like a boy?
I don't know. Like I've always felt kind of self-conscious about my voice, particularly that it's a little, I don't know, deep and congested. I don't know. But,
okay. Okay. Yeah.
Everybody hears their own voice, kind of distorted from their own mind. But we do take a lot from the lessons. We talk about the concepts and then we listen to the calls so that we can hear where those concepts applied. So that is how you learn, is to put yourself in that position and be like, okay, I need to try to apply this concept. Did I apply it correctly? And then as a class, we talk about it and how to improve.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But like when you first started and the team, they got this person, Chris Mullins, and we have this class and we're all playing call recordings and everybody's listening. And then, okay, this person we don't know, she's going to review them. And what was that whole thing like from the beginning? Do you remember for yourself and for the team? Like, I mean, was it no big deal or?
It wasn't really, they were a little bit like more self-conscious about what they were saying on the phone because they were kind of fearing, is my call going to be played next? And then, I was also told that, during the call, they would be thinking, oh, why did I say that? I should, say something else next time. Or they're a little bit more self-conscious about what they say on the phone. Yeah. And sometimes in fear because it would be played in class. But, we're about like 6 or 7 months into the program and that's not a problem anymore. Like it's not an issue because we talk about recurring themes and concepts from the class that everybody's just more comfortable, and they know what to expect.
Yeah. But if you were to speak to an audience of aspiring intake specialists, that they wanted to grow within their current career, and then some wanted to kind of go to the next level, manager, supervisor, director, what have you. What do you think would be the most important things to say to them in the current state that they're in?
If they want to grow with
like if they they want to either be better intake specialists or they want to go to the next level, what would you say to that whole audience? It's really important for them to consider.
Yeah, and I mean, they're both equally important. You need to take initiative. That's number one. If you want to grow into the next level as like a supervisor or director, you gotta take initiative. Not just in your phone calls, but in the administrative aspects of the position, like in terms of operations. Like when I started, we had someone who had 400 tasks. And so I cleaned them up. I cleared tasks, and I had to do that a couple times, actually, a couple sets of 400 tasks. So you gotta take initiative, and you're not snooping because you're working in a software that all intake specialists have access to. So if you see something where there's a gap in communication with the PC, something's missing, go in and just take care of it, because that shows that you have a potential of being a great leader because you are helping the team. But at the same time, you also have to improve in your calls. So that what it takes is to understand the psychology behind what PCs tell you and how they say it to you. So you can't just be, excelling in one area. You have to excel, across the board as an intake specialist. But in terms of how to improve your call quality, you got to practice.
You got to practice.
Practice makes progress, not perfect.
Yeah, progress, not perfection. Yeah.
Yeah.
But what about so like intake at your law firm? My impression is that Dubin Law Group respects intake and they put them very high up. But you probably know by being in intake that not all law firms do that. I don't know. Why do you think that is?
I think depending, what department you're working in, maybe, you just get so tied up in your day to day that you just forget to take a moment to acknowledge, hey, I've got case managers, I've got paralegals, I've got legal assistants who are also contributing into helping clients and closing cases and getting these settlements. It's not just about me. So I would say that the Dubin Law Group is very selfless, and we are going to take some moment to actually thank everybody around us for doing their work. And Matt does a great job of fostering a very safe work environment where the boss himself comes into the office, talks to everyone, and fosters just a very safe and non-toxic work environment. Everything starts with the founding attorney, everything. And so I think that, with Matt Dubin, he sets a good example of what a leader should be, and, how peers should treat each other.
Yeah. Okay. So when you think about the future, where would you like to see your team go?
We definitely are looking to expand. So when I started out, we only had 3 intake specialists, myself included. Now we've got 11 people on the team. So definitely I see us growing. I want to promote our intake specialists from within, especially those, who work overseas. Because they don't get enough, they have never, from my experience working with people overseas, they don't get enough opportunity for growth, and they're not even given the time of day, basically. And so the feedback that I've gotten is that my training has been very helpful and efficient. They feel loved and cared for.
Yeah.
So I see not only the team growing, but I want to promote hardworking intake specialists from within.
Yeah. And some firms, like an idea for that is they they're letting intake specialists, like say you have an intake specialist that behind the scenes they like marketing. And so they're letting them, when they get to a certain level, they're letting them still do intake, but also be part of marketing and help marketing and give idea, like be part of the marketing team. Not most of the time, it's only a little bit, but they get to dabble in it. So that's just a good idea that a lot of firms are doing. You might not have a role that they can promote to, but you could let them have their fingers in things that they love and experience them and see what they're like. So that's something that you could do too. Um, with regards to the numbers, so like, what do you expect from your intake team? I mean, besides be there, be reliable, handle the calls, convert and everything, but is it a bigger picture than that you expect of them when it comes to the numbers, the business, anything like that at all?
You mean aside from like, maintaining the conversion rate?
Yeah, aside from that, like, so what I think about is turning intake specialists into business people, you know, business salespeople, helping them see that it's not just, here in on the phone and perfecting that. It's also behind the scenes as a business person, wanting to know how the firm is doing as a whole, making sure that you know what your numbers are today, making sure that you know what your numbers were the same time last year, knowing where you want to go with your numbers personally and specifically what you're going to do to get yourself to go there, and actually knowing the rest of the team's numbers so that you can all support each other and help each other. Yeah, that kind of thing. So do you hold them accountable for that? Do they have to talk about their numbers at all?
Yeah, so we will do like one-on-ones if I see that, someone's conversion rate is, significantly lower, which that hasn't happened in a long time, then, the rest of the team, then, conversation will take place. I will say that Matt also goes over, and he went over this last week, the firm's numbers as a whole. We met with the whole firm.
Yeah.
So I talked about how we did in 2024, compared to even 2023. We talk about how the case management did, how new client liaisons did, and how intake did. And so Amelia, who's our director of data and analytics, she keeps all of our data in Domo, or the software that we use. So we keep track. Everybody is able to keep track of their own numbers and the rest of the department's numbers. Nothing is kept from anyone.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, the conversations are happening, but the team is just, doing a wonderful job.
Yeah, they really, really are. What about, I'm asked a lot this question about fatigue, like just call fatigue. Like, do you run into that? And if you do, what do you do about it?
With me personally, when I was on call rotation, there were a couple times where I got, call fatigue, and my team did a great job of noticing it and just telling me to like take a minute, take a breath, like I will handle that next call. So when I was an intake specialist, there was more call fatigue, and I think it's because there were only 3 people. And but now, even when even with our people overseas, they never had anyone tell them, hey, you need to take a break because I just listened to that call. They're just like, no, I'm ready to take the next one. I have a really good team of people who just insist they just want to keep taking calls when I insist they need to take a moment for themselves. It doesn't happen that frequently, but occasionally I will have to turn around, especially to my team leads, because their responsibility is not just, for like personnel responsibilities, but they take calls as well. But when I turn around and I listen to a call, I tell them like, hey, I just heard that you need to take a moment.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. It's really important to do that and to notice that. So also like the hiring process for like what's your process for hiring? Because I mean that's a big deal all the time, but these days people are having a really hard time finding people
Yes.
and then making the right decision.
Right. Yeah, we are also, coming across that obstacle as well. So we use a couple of agencies to help recruit the right type of not only the credentials of the candidate, but their personality. That's
Mm.
what we're looking for.
Yeah.
Mainly it comes down to personality because the job, it can be trained. You can be trained on a job. Like I said, I came from from a non-intake background, legal background as well. But it takes the right kind of personality. And so the hiring process, it takes time. Especially recently, it's been taking us even months.
Yeah, because you're being what, picky?
Yeah, we're not picky and also, yeah, I mean, just picky. I'll just be honest,
Yeah, picky.
because it does take the right personality.
Right. Yeah. Um, and then what about virtual? So is it different? Is the process different?
I used to treat them differently. Yeah, I used to. And then now I just treat everyone the same. I hold everyone to the same standards.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Um, the other thing that a lot of people wonder about is remote workers. So, and I feel like, I think it's really a big deal. And I haven't really met a firm yet. I'm sure they're out there that are really doing a great job with integrating the virtual folks with the office. You know, what what do you do to try to help that kind of fit together properly so that the virtual people feel like they're part of this business, they're not there?
Yeah. That's actually a great question because as of, this month, I am going to set a bi-weekly meeting with all of the virtual assistants, and I want us to have like a happy hour. We're gonna do like a happy hour. We're gonna, just talk, just anything that's like non-work related, just because I get to know our remote workers during training. And then
Mhm.
after training is done, we're not talking face to face like this. Then we just kind of lose touch. And I will of course have one-on-ones with them, and then we will also Teams message, but it's not the same thing because I was explaining to my remote intake specialist the other day that I get to turn around and talk to my intake specialist. We get to, joke and
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
kind of decompress, and they don't have any coworkers. They don't get to turn around and do that. For them, it's just work, work, work. And they really appreciated that. So starting this month, we're going to do a biweekly like happy hour, session.
Yeah, that's really good because they need to have that vibe.
Yeah.
They don't get to hear and feel the hum of the room because they're all alone. So
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, they even though they expressed to me that they received, the best kind of training and that I'm, personable, it's just not enough.
Yeah, no, it's not enough. I'm sure there's all kinds of creative things that can be done that other businesses are doing. It's actually better to learn from other industries than it is to learn from other law firms. Because law firms, they're all doing the same thing. So if you learn from like Chick-fil-A or Pal's Restaurant or different businesses that are really exceptional, then you you can easily figure it out, all the different things that you can do. Um, what else do you think is important that everybody knows about intake, like that you've learned, um, that you're still learning, advice that you have for people, um, maybe even just managing the team, like noticing everybody and checking their pulse and making sure that they're all seen, anything like that.
Yeah, it's definitely, as I've grown into the director role, I've become more not as involved in taking calls. And so my priority are the people, are there my peers, my coworkers. I want to make sure that they are happy, wherever you go, as an intake or whatever position that you would work in general, the job is just never going to be easy. And what makes the job, like what makes the job like pleasurable, you can say, is just making sure that you are in communication with your team, you have good rapport, that you are, you have someone safe to go to so that you can decompress. Because like I said, whatever job that you do, it's just not going to be easy. And so, yeah, making it a very healthy work environment. And then definitely listening to your own calls as an intake specialist, you got to listen to your own calls no matter how difficult it can be.
Yeah.
That was something that I had to, make peace with myself, because again, I have a problem listening to my own voice, but
Yeah, right.
no call is ever going to be perfect. Even though I had an amazing, a great conversion rate when I was an intake specialist, you still got to focus on what can I do better next time. And Matt always says the same thing. Matt always says, there's always room for improvement. Even if we had 100% conversion rate, there's still always something to improve on. And
Yeah.
learning to be patient with yourself as you keep improving and evolving in your career.
Yeah, that's awesome. Let me ask something about conversion. What about the law firms that are not happy with their conversion? Let's just say they're worried about it. They're just worried about it for whatever the reason is. What do you say to those law firms?
I would definitely say you need to evaluate the people on your team. You've got to make sure that you have a good balance of, having the right personality, to work with, having the right personality on the phone. And you also have to evaluate their numbers. And so, when we started this program, we had people on the team who were not fit. And I loved them very deeply. I had, a great rapport with them. But in the end, sometimes it turns out you don't have the right people on the team, and you've got to evaluate that very carefully.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right. And be willing to make the tough decisions. Yeah, make the tough decisions. Okay. Anything else you want to share with everybody?
No. It's been a pleasure, talking to you and doing this podcast.
Okay, well, upward and onward. And so just keep up the good work. I thought it would be great that everybody meet you. And I'm proud of you. In the short time we've been together, you've progressed amazingly. So yeah, all good things are coming to Dubin Law Group.
So thank you so much, Chris.
All right, see you soon. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank you for tuning in to Lawyers Tell All, where Chris Mullins takes you on a journey with lawyers in the trenches who show you the realities of what it takes to succeed in this chaotic, crowded, ever-changing profession. Remember to visit our website at www.lawyerstellall.com and enjoy even more great episodes like this one. Again, while you're here, subscribe to us via your favorite network. We look forward to seeing you next time on Lawyers Tell All.